Goree Island is a tiny 45-acre island that is located approximately 3 kilometers off the coast of Dakar, the capital of Senegal. Goree Island is one of the oldest sites of European settlements on the African coast and once the center of West African slave trade, with an estimated 20 million Africans passing through the island between 1536 to 1848 to work on plantations in Europe and the Americas.
You have the different cells, you see. This one was for the man.
These are all cells.
Yeah, the cells left and right was for the man, and the children cell, virgin girl, woman, and the door of no return. And the top was a guest house for slave master, hotels, the slave live downstairs.
In 1444, the Portuguese became the first Europeans to colonize the island and made it their settlement and renamed it Homer Island. The Portuguese used the island as a docking port for their ships and trade routes to India, Brazil, and Mexico. The building of houses on the island by the Portuguese began in the early 1500s. In 1536, they built the first slave house on the island and started the slave trade. The size of the island made it easier for the Portuguese, Dutch, and French slave merchants to control and enslave Africans. The House of Slave is the last standing slave house of the 28 slave houses built in 1776 by the Dutch and now serve as a museum. The House of Slave was a slave-holding warehouse. Africans from West Africa were brought to the island as slaves, held in tiny cells until they were shipped across the Atlantic Ocean to their different destinations in South America, Europe, the Caribbean, and North America to work on plantation fields to create a new world. The House of Slave played a major but terrible role in the trade-in of African men, women, and children. In one of the slave rooms, more than 30 African men and women will sit in a 2.6 meter by 2.6 meter cell with no windows. Once a day, they were fed with beans to make them gain weight. The heavier they were, the higher the price, and allowed to attend to their needs. In another tiny cell made for African children who were held as slaves, more than 130 children will lie side by side. They were packed like a sardine. Young African girls, on the other hand, were rated according to virginity and breast size. The larger the breast, the more expensive they were. It was common for these young African girls to be used by the traders living on the island for sexual pleasure. They got raped, and if got pregnant, they were freed by the slave traders, and their children were provided with French citizenship, which provided an opportunity of freedom for these girls in an evil twisted way. Their kids were termed as mulattoes. Before being put into the cells, the slaves were put inside a room called the weighing room. The weighing room was used to weigh 150 slaves before being taken to their cells. For the men, they needed to be weighed at least 60 kilograms. For this to be achieved, they would feed them with beans for a period of 2 to 3 months, and they would wait for 2 to 3 weeks inside those tiny cells with chains on their necks and feet before being transported to the Americas and Europe. Due to this atrocious living condition of Africans, the first case of yellow fever was recorded in 1779 in the House of Slaves. Inside the House of Slaves, small courtyards where African men, women, and children were put on display for sale. The prospective buyer and trader from Europe, North and South America did not lower themselves to standing on ground level with the merchandise. They watched and chose their goods standing on upper floor balcony. A lot of Catholic missionaries were involved in the slave trade on the island. Above the heads of our ancestors, the slave owners had their dealers' apartments, balls, and festivities that were going on. But even more terrifying and heart-wrenching than those tiny cells and chains was the small door of no return, through which every African man, woman, and children walked through to the wooden slave boats with a 5 kg metal ball on their necks and feet, catching the last glimpse of their homeland. knowing fully well they will never come back home again. The house of slaves is still standing strong and remain intact with cells and shackles. Today, after more than 3 centuries of the atrocious European invasion and activities on the island is one of UNESCO's World Heritage Sites with the Historical Museum, the Maritime Museum, residential homes and forts, and over 1,000 residents living on the island.